Welcome to the Diversity Connector podcast, where we explore the rich tapestry of human experiences. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country on which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging, and together as we dive into conversations that bridge cultures, challenge stereotypes, and celebrate the unique perspectives each of us brings to the table. Each episode is a journey through stories and insights from a kaleidoscope of voices, each sharing their colorful narrative. Whether you're at home, on the go, or just anywhere in between, you're now part of a community that values understanding, inclusivity, and the beauty of diversity. So plug in your headphones, get comfortable, and let's connect through the power of our shared stories. Welcome, and thank you for joining us on the Diversity Connector podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Diversity Connector. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Bali, Indonesia today. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to one of the most amazing young men I have ever met, the co-founder of the Innovate Innovate Black Summit in Bali, Indonesia. Please introduce yourself, tell everybody your full name, where you're from, and how you came up with this amazing concept.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Marcus McDowell. I'm originally from the US. My parents are from Jamaica and Canada. So that gives you a little context of where I am from, but also what I bring with me in terms of storytelling, where your ancestors are from, the importance of this context. I'm based in Berlin currently. My expertise is in marketing, branding, and impact. So those are the three, let's say, constellations that I move between. And really, I'm very passionate about being involved in impact projects, creating the first of their kind summits around the world, programs, projects, and even helping support startups and different founders. So I'm very much involved in helping build the table for our community. The topic that I would love to talk about constantly is spaces for us to excel, not to just be tolerated. So I think that this is foundational to what we wanted to bring to the Innovate Black Summit. Here in Southeast Asia. It's our first activation. We decided to do this location because each founder had a deep tie here, whether it's me having worked, studied, and lived in Southeast Asia, or Isaac having done the same, and then also Noble having worked here and having built a really strong community in the region. We all noticed there aren't, not purposefully, but there aren't events for us to come together and to have conversations and to understand each other and how we got here.
Yes.
Many of the times when you see Black people out on the global stage, sometimes they're the exception. They're the one who worked at this corporation or forced their way out. And sometimes you don't know, can I approach them? What is this like? Once we start to understand each other's stories, then we see, this was something similar to what I've experienced, or, oh no, that's something amazing to understand in terms of your journey and how you navigated that. And what can I learn from that in terms of my understanding of this environment and navigation of this time of my life and where I want to go with it. So the intention behind this was to address business, creativity, and healing. And what we found at the summit is that there's such an importance on the healing component.
Oh, yes, I saw that.
There is a reverberation of this need to come together and to collect and to heal with each other. And then we go out and we address the other topics of creativity and business. What does it look like for us to build coalition together? What is it like for us to expand and grow and develop and start businesses and set up community in different parts of the world? And yeah, I'm hoping that we're very respectful participants and migrants in the communities for which we're operating in. And many of us have found that it's actually very welcoming of us when we're in Asia. There's a piece to our existence that I think we really appreciate, and we're very humbled to be able to bring everyone together with the local communities here today at BG World. This event is beautiful. The location is beautiful,
It's stunning,
and everyone is just loving it. So
Yeah, so let's go back a few steps, right? One of the things that I've seen that you guys have done really well is there's a sense of community here for a start, a sense of very strong collaboration. So let's go back and talk about the partners that you've brought on board to make this happen. Give me a background of your co-founders, who they are, how you guys got together to create this amazing event.
Sure. I will start with I'll start with our co-founders because it's actually quite interesting. Noble and I met in Singapore. So I had studied at the #2 marketing program in the world as the first person who was Black to attend the program.
Okay.
And found that to be an interesting experience.
I can imagine. Oh,
and it was a European business school.
Right.
As an American, who's a first generation American son of immigrant parents, who's queer, neurodivergent, and also mixed race. So it was very fascinating, not to put the identities as the only thing I brought to that space, but it was like people receive you in many different ways. They don't know how to understand you. So they're like, what is this? They think you're like the Beyonce who walks through the door, but they didn't anticipate that you would be the Beyonce in the program or the space in terms of output and resiliency of your output being not just in the program, but also work and being on a reality TV series and all of these different things. I think attracted Isaac to me.
Okay.
So I had joined Black in Singapore, which is a group and a community in Singapore.
Okay.
It's a community that brings people together for different events, discussions, whether it's moving to Singapore, what does that look like? If you're just traveling through Singapore, what's on this week? Right. And so I think I posted something in there about a queer related conversation, and he'd reached out to start a conversation with me, and then we met. And then that's how the conversation started.
Okay.
And so Black in Singapore is a community partner of this event.
Right. Okay.
So it's full circle. He's one of the lead admins. I'm a support admin of the community because we're very passionate about this conversation in Singapore. I don't even live in Singapore anymore.
Yes.
And I'm still like, girl, you're going to know about this conversation. And the other community partner is Black in Bali.
Right.
For which Noble is an active member of. He puts on amazing. Let me
go back a bit.
Go back to Isaac, because Isaac, he's product expert. He's a aspiring VC.
Yes.
He's split between Kenya, San Francisco, and Singapore. So he's a very dynamic business person and an amazing creative.
Right.
Then we move over to who is Noble. Noble is part of Black in Bali.
Right.
He puts on amazing co-working workshops.
Right.
He's a fabulous singer. He puts on different events here in Bali. He's just like a community expert. He's vivacious. He can speak off the cusp. So all three of us, I think, really have strong areas of expertise.
Yeah, that's what I see. Each of you brought the best of you together.
Yes.
And you're each playing in your area of strength. I think that's why this event is so successful.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I to double tap into that, it is because unlike a lot of circumstances that we're in, we're forced outside of our excellence and our power in order to forcefully be put in someone else's box. So you actually don't expand and grow. So when you give us an opportunity as diaspora to enter a space that gives us peace and respect from the beginning, you get a dynamic summit in 6 weeks that's delivered and everyone is going, oh my gosh, this is like fabulous and we want to have this all the time. So it is a testament to when you're around people who support you, who see you, who champion you, you go the furthest.
I love it.
And we do play to the corners of our strength. We have some similar strengths, but then that operates as this dynamic machine that puts us on the right path.
You know what I've experienced just being here these last 2 days, it's just absolutely mind-blowing. You know, I've been to a lot of conferences, I've been to a lot of events, but I think what you've done really, really well is creating these intimate spaces. So we're not just here to listen to speakers on stage speaking. There's workshops being run. There's close, intimate conversations. You've created a space where people can actually connect authentically one-on-one, which is very, very unusual. Now, the spirit of the event, I noticed that there's people coming in. I came in from Australia, people came in from Germany, the UK, USA. How many countries do you actually have represented here? I mean, I met a woman from Zimbabwe today living in Singapore.
Uh-huh.
How many countries have you counted?
That's a really good question, because I created a post where I listed out every flag, and I was like, this is a very long a LinkedIn post, because I went by country and flag vertically, and I'm like, probably, I wanted to say back then it was 15,
Right.
but we've had
There's
people sign up
more.
since then, and we've had people sign up at the door. We have people signing up for the event right now, and this is day number 2, and we've passed lunch, and people are racing to get here. People find out about this event, and they're chasing to get to this event, and because they're thirsty for it.
Yes.
It speaks to this need, this overwhelming need. We've done similar activation. I have done similar activations with an organization I worked with in Berlin around the first ever Black in Tech Europe Summit.
Right.
And there was this explosion of demand where people were surprised. Our partners were surprised. They're like, oh, all these Black people coming, like they stayed all day. I was like, of course, because there's no other option. You don't see this happen in the world often. So I think that's where this comes from, where people are willing to go out of the way to come here, because it's so unique. And to your point, it's so intimate.
It's intimate.
So you go to a summit and you're hearing someone talk to you, you never speak to them, and then you walk away. And sometimes people are more focused on business networking, which isn't a problem in and of itself, but there's this feminine aspect
energy
to what we wanted the conference to be about. So we know that all three founders are men.
Yes.
But we wanted an intimate feminine style networking, because the feminine energy goes, I speak to you and who you are as a person. And then we go deep, and then we build what are those synergies? What is the common ground and understanding? And decreasing the size of having 5 different sessions running concurrently means you can go to one and sit in a room with 10 other people. And then the facilitator, who's oftentimes not like the biggest name, is good, because there's a humility, there's a humbleness, there's an openness, and then they're building their platform through our project, which we very much want to have happen. We want to accelerate their marketing of their services, what they're good at, their storytelling, and then everyone else feels this sense of, I can talk to the person next to me, because I could talk to the facilitator, I can talk to everybody, and then we start to share, we start to want to build, we start to want to collaborate, which is the aim of the summit.
That's the aim of the summit. And the other thing also see is that everybody's just able to be themselves. You know, I sometimes go to events where people are fronting, and you get these airs. Everybody I've talked to is so down to earth and real. And I think it's because of the way you created the space for people just to show up as themselves.
Yes.
You're not trying to impress anybody. You're just here to be you, to learn, to be nurtured. I mean, the food here was amazing. I just, everybody who I told to come to the summit, you should have come. Now, when is the next one? This is what I want to know.
Very, very good question. First, to touch on the first part, there is, what you said is very interesting, because it's like, you don't have to impress someone with something that you're not.
Yeah.
So what a lot of people are doing is they're actually coming to impress.
Yeah.
And it's an I'm impressing you with my authenticity.
Yeah.
Because we want that outlet. We want that outlet to go, I want to be my full self. I want to be as fabulous as I want to be, arriving to the summit as how I want to express myself. And then you see that, look at you.
Oh yeah.
Look at this outfit.
My color. Look at you.
Beautiful. I was like, everyone's walking through the door like it's a runway show, and I'm here for it.
I love it.
But to your second question, or second part of the question, we're hoping that this can become a yearly activation. So working with different Black in XYZ communities around the world. If that stays here in Southeast Asia, or if we expand that to Lisbon, other countries, we could take it to Australia or New Zealand, or Phuket is already interested. We have conversations with Dubai. So I think that we're going to try to grow it organically and try to build it up to retain the quality, retain that intimacy.
Yes.
But I think it will always attract people.
The right people.
And this is what I say as both a brand builder and a marketing expert is, when you work with something that's unique from the beginning, it's not as hard to market and brand.
Okay.
You're building
Okay.
a service for people who are historically and currently marginalized and disenfranchised.
Yes.
Providing a solution, you will always have demand.
Now my diversity hat comes online now. As somebody who has such an intersectional sense, you're African, you're American, you're living in multiple countries, you're from the LGBTQ plus community. Do you think that your life experience has helped you create this and create this space? Why is that, and why is it important for you?
I just had this conversation downstairs.
Okay, so you can tell me as well.
I'm glad you asked me this because it is
Hmm.
so fundamental. It's like your story indicates what you bring with you. And to what I said at the beginning, you bring your ancestors with you, you bring the past with you. Whether that's the trauma of the past or whether that's the power of the past
Yes.
that you don't yet know that you have, that you
Yeah.
step into. So it is very true. Being myself marginalized and shut out and excluded on almost every level
Right.
is taught me this lesson. The power of inclusion is it's very powerful, but I think people misunderstand what that means.
What it means, exactly.
Because it's a sustainable practice. It's not filled with ego. I don't know how I best include somebody. It's my intention to do it. And a lot of the times, whether we're talking, I'm also a practitioner of DEI in the workspaces.
Yes.
Many times those initiatives don't have the right intention from
the beginning. Yes.
So they're set up to
Intention
fail
is all
from the
wrong.
beginning. It doesn't matter what tactic strategy you do, it's not going to
Yes.
work because you don't have the discipline. You've not decided on discipline from the beginning. And this is where many of the times I don't have a choice. I want to be included wherever I go.
Yeah.
And I want other people to also feel that way. Isaac is very big on this. He says, I want this to be about community because that has some of the greatest power you can find in terms of a gathering of people.
Yes.
You don't need the glitz and the glamour and the big names to fly in and the AV equipment. You just really need, to your point, valuable conversations.
Yes.
Things that people really need.
Okay, so now let's talk to the DEI professionals, consultants, managers out there. What does it take to make somebody to feel included and to help them get that sense of belonging in the workplace?
It's a very difficult challenge.
It is.
I think there's misnomers about even the conversation of DEI is dismissed as if it's a small thing, typically also positioned with women in the workplace, which is again to this conversation about power.
Yes.
It's power in the workplace with women. It should be, but it's not. So you're treating it as if it's something that's easy to dismiss, that it's not serious. I'm like, this is the same thing with women, should be very much taken seriously. Yes. I said this to someone downstairs and they said, this is a great analogy, is you look at DEI as one single activation and then you're like, we've solved it. It's good.
It's done.
And then I said, do you approach the same thing with your financial bookkeeping or your analysis? Do you look at your quarter, understand your performance, and then not build off of that to understand how you can improve in the next quarter? Or just stop the conversation entirely?
Say it's done.
And say it's done? That it's not done.
You wouldn't do that.
You wouldn't do that.
So it's an ongoing process. You have to keep evaluating what we've done, what was the result, analyze the data, improve.
Yes.
So it's like a vicious cycle.
Yes.
That has to keep circulating.
Yes. You need the metrics. You need also transparency. You need to be very honest with where you have started.
Yes.
What you've done in the past, start there.
It's important.
With the brand, many brands can be complicit in things.
Yes.
And then where you are now and where you want to go.
Okay.
But that requires you to go, this data shows us this, and we're not going to change that data when we publicly publish it.
Yes. Yeah, because that happens
that
too,
happens. Right? The altercation of data
to
paint a different picture than what's actually happening is you undermining DEI for which you want to propel forward. So it's practitioners, if they have the right mindset and aim, building things, and then also this conversation has a lot to do with selling stakeholders.
Yes.
Who are you as the individual in the organization in relative relativity to those who have power.
Right.
How do you sell them on this? It's typically you have to talk about the financial impact of this.
Yes.
But then through the lens of this must be a sustainable endeavor,
Yeah.
otherwise there is significant financial downsides.
Now, to go to all of your speakers, the workshop facilitators, I get a sense that you literally handpicked each person. You were very selective. You didn't just say, hey, we're just going to get a bunch of speakers to come together. How did you assess who got to present?
Mhm.
What was that process like?
It really starts with our networks. So we spoke about this early. It's the
Yeah.
power and it's the value of your network that indicates what you do, where you go. And we had a process after having started.
Right.
So we went hi to all of our networks who's
Yes.
interested, because we first needed to just build, is this
An
interesting,
interest.
and
Yes.
energy and momentum. And then through that we went, okay, these align with what we're trying to do.
Right.
This is the kind of discussions we want to have. This is valuable for the community.
Okay.
But really, this is a testament to the quality of our network.
Yeah.
Because when you build very strong, substantial relationships with the right people, you know that you put something out into your network and you're going to get very strong, relevant responses.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just, like I said, I am blown away with what I've seen. This is like one of the best conferences I've ever gone to. Now, the logistics side of things. So I told you I'm an events planner. I live and work in this business. Everything was seamless, right down to the schedule. You know, I killed a few trees printing out handouts to give to people for my workshop. It's digital, it's eco-friendly. People are using their phones. Is it just because I'm an old lady and I'm connecting with you young people? So you've deliberately thought through everything you're doing.
And it comes from, you know where that comes from?
Where does it come from?
It comes from Isaac and I studied design.
Right.
I reformed curriculum at my university for egalitarian aims and purposes and means, because we are very aligned. Same with Noble.
Right.
About everyone accessing the conference. So from the design of every graphic, it's Isaac and I going, is this legible? Can people with poor eyesight read this? Is it
even the colors? If you're colorblind.
Everything is very much intentional. We're trying to strive for the highest quality and simplifying so that we can do high quality, but several things. So it's this conversation of constant refinement. Is this excessive? What's the priority status? Is this a priority? Is this a want, a need, or a like to have?
Right.
So it's having those conversations. It's constant level. It's constant communication, constant check-ins. Isaac is very good with this, with constant communication. And Noble is very strong in prioritization of what we need to deliver. And then it's having those conversations on what are the key things and how do we drive the highest level of value. But then to your point of digitizing everything, but making sure it's clear that everyone knows how to start the process.
Yes.
Isaac has a very strong UX UI background. I've studied the design. So we know the first entry is going to indicate the rest of your journey. So it's getting everyone to the right QR code, to have the link tree, to understand where they're going. And then it's communication. It's the small things too. Noble is very good on the details of things. So we need to make sure that we've sent out that communication timely before the session so that people can vote. And
they know where to go. It's the logistics side of things. I am just so impressed. I'm going to work with you guys when I do my next event. Definitely. So what are your parting thoughts for our listeners in terms of what's coming, what's to come, what can we expect? So you can see I'm just gushing. I just want to know when the next date is so I can sign up.
I think that, you know, what's very interesting, and maybe to just close out, I thought I had many of the times I'm shocked at where I am in my journey.
Right.
And I'm thinking I've built the brand, and we've done all of the email blasts, social media. We've done so many different things, and I've done it beautifully with 2 other people.
Right.
And I'm sitting here thinking I'm from Ohio. I'm from the middle of America. I think what's very powerful about these moments is you realize your unlimited potential.
Yes.
I've started to now pick up on this and go, specifically as Black diaspora,
Yeah.
told that we don't have potential
Yes.
from all corners and levels of society, to see it absolutely thwarted through who's attended the event,
Yeah.
who's put on the event.
Mm-hmm.
It is the caliber of the community that really delivers, because we must over deliver. So that's what we're trying to do in the next activation,
Yes.
is bring in people like yourself, other community leaders, to help us build these networks, because no one's going to save us but us. No one's going to help us build our table but us. And we're very intentional about making that happen.
I love it. And you're right. We are all waiting for somebody to invite us to the table. You have to create the table, chop down that tree if you have to, and build it yourself.
Yes.
It's way too late for us to be waiting.
No. And that table, I said this earlier, being the exception. I've been told this because of my upbringing, or you sound very corporate, or your accessible accent, or the way you hold yourself. You can be in the room with us, but it comes with the barbed wire, with the temperamental ejection button, with the strings attached, where you sit there and go, is it valuable to be in this space? Is it safe to be in this space?
Yes.
Or would I rather build this with people from the get-go, like you and I have said, that I know I'm aligned with, in the values, in the aims, and the objective from the beginning.
And it's all about your values. It really is. If those values don't align, it's not even worth going there.
Yes. Yeah. It's a vetting process. You have this intuition, you have the feedback of your community, you learn from other people's experiences. It doesn't have to be your experience.
Yes.
I've learned this. I will tell you where I've learned this the most. Black women. People ask me all the time, who's your favorite person? What's your top 3 XYZ? And I'm not petty, but I'm a little shady. And I'll say Black women. I'll say Black women. They're like, that's not a person. That's not in the rules. And I'm like, I don't care. It's Black women. Because it's true. When I'm around Black women, I learn about going into a community that is even more intersectional than myself.
Yes.
Understanding from their lens. It doesn't have to be only Black women, but many people listening to their story, understanding. Then I grow. Then I understand an experience that someone has told me they've had as a Black woman. Then I have later, and I go, I can understand what's happening to me early, because I've heard it from someone else's experience.
Yeah.
And that's very powerful.
Wow. And it's interesting you should say that. I lived in apartheid South Africa before we had independence. And apartheid had a system where they graded people. So in their census, 01 was a white female, 02 was a white male, 03 was a colored female, 04 was a colored male. So 08 was the Black female. Black women were at the bottom of the food chain. And living in apartheid South Africa, I was in IT. I would be in a boardroom with a bunch of white guys. When it was time for tea and coffee, everybody turned to me and say, Gertrude, it's time for tea and coffee. And I wasn't the tea lady, right? And I had to turn it into a joke. What I used to say to my boss, I'll cross my legs and say, yes, Jack, I take mine black with tea. But I had to kill them with kindness, right?
Yeah.
Because the assumption is always that you are at the lowest part of the totem pole. So Black women do experience a lot, and we do have a lot to teach. And to hear it said by someone your age, recognizing that, that is pretty special. That is something special. So it shows me that you do come from a line of very strong Black women as well, right? So tell me about the Black women in your family. Who's the biggest influence?
It's very interesting you say this. I think when I'd gotten into my master's degree, I'd said thank you because it was such a monumental feat.
Right.
And I'd listed out all the people who were instrumental in getting me there. And I looked back at the list, and it was all women.
Oh, wow.
All women. And there was probably like 9 or 10 people mentioned.
Yeah.
And I just thought I'm here because of that level of investment.
They nurtured you. They invested in you.
But many of the times you see this in the conversation about who's going to be the best founder to invest in.
Yes.
Women of color are bypassed, even though women of color outperform all of other groups in the conversation of who should be invested in. It's the same thing. I'm the living proof and product of this, because I know that they invested in me for a reason. So there's been many women, whether it's from my family specifically on the Jamaican side, as Black women who know certain things, and through observing them or living
Just
with
watching,
them, watching them in their struggle, I can understand different levels of me as a man, understanding like what is my role. Like we're trying to center more women at this conference, and we know most people attending are women. So this needs to be an accessible place. It needs to center womanhood in some fashion or sense, because it's important. It's fundamental to all society. Let's be real. You don't have anything without women. So, and then
bringing up the kids, those kids like you, young men who turn into amazing young men because of that.
Yes, it's the agents of change, and it stems from the values that you're taught by who raises you, who's typically the most instrumental in raising you is your mother. And it's interesting you've asked the question of women from your family, but there's also women along my journey whom I've just bumped into who have become my greatest champions or examples. There's one who I was on her reality TV series, and she was the first Black woman to win Mrs. Universe in history. And she's dynamic, she's real, she's purposeful, she has a story to tell, she is wicked smart. She's like all the hyphenates you want to talk about. I'm like, but this is so common with Black women. It's like I now have an underrated and over qualified. So I think constantly looking up to Black women as my aspirations or just my inspiration is where I've tried to reach higher and higher, and then also reach back, because you don't build the table alone.
No. Wow. Well, I'm telling you, I am now your biggest fan. You will not be able to get rid of me. Thank you so much for creating this space, and please give my regards to your whole team. This has been a phenomenal experience. And to anybody out there who is listening, I'm going to keep you tuned in to when the next event is going to be. I'll be sharing video testimonials from the people who have come to this event. You have to sign up and just be on the waiting list if you have to. But thank you so much for this interview. Absolutely amazing.
Thank you for having me.
So, the Diversity Connector is a podcast that celebrates our diversity. People from all over the world have come to this one event, an event that I highly recommend. This is an amazing young man who, if you don't know him, go onto LinkedIn and connect with him straight away so you get into his database. I'll be back again tomorrow when I do a synopsis of everything that has happened, the people that I've interviewed, what has transpired, especially for me as an entrepreneur coming to this space to seek other people who are in this space who can support my business, help me take things to the next level. This afternoon, I'm running a workshop called Speaking from the Heart and How to Land Your First TED Talk. I've already got a whole lot of people who signed up to come to that event. So thank you again for creating the space.
And thank you for attending.
Thank you. Oh, it's been
Thank you for speaking.
awesome.
And thank you for inspiring so many different people. I've already had people say, she's amazing. She's fabulous.
Well, thank you. I will take that with grace. Thank you, Marcus. Okay, everybody. I'll be back again tomorrow with some more feedback. I'll be taking lots of pictures to show you exactly where we were, what transpired. Tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Marcus, thank you again for the interview. Bye for now, everybody. And that's a wrap, everybody, on today's episode of the Diversity Connector podcast. Thank you for tuning in and being part of our vibrant and global conversation. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a tapestry of diverse perspectives. Remember, every story you've heard today is a thread in the larger fabric of our shared humanity. So, as you step back into your world, carry these stories with you and let them inspire you to embrace and celebrate the rich diversity around us. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these inspiring stories with more listeners. Do follow us on social media by looking for the Diversity Connector podcast for more updates. Until then, keep connecting, keep listening, and keep celebrating the beauty of diversity. This is the Diversity Connector podcast signing off. Stay curious, stay open, and definitely stay connected.